Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Real Sports Scope on this 16th day. Yes, I'm back live on a Tuesday, 16th day of September. Going to go over my first NFL Power 5 of the season. Cannot wait to go over that. Got a surpriser in there. A lot of people think it's going to be one team, but it's going to be another. Okay. Also, going to talk about Joe Burrow out for 3 months. Not good, but it's not the end of the world. I'll have to break this down. Not the end of the world with Jake Browning and that schedule. Talk about that a little bit. Also, Eagles, Kansas City Chiefs. A lot of people putting a fork in Kansas City. I'm not one of those people. So, want to get with that. Are the Titans simply just not well coached at this point? I'll talk about that game as well with the Rams and more. Stand by. We'll take our first and only break, and I'll be back here momentarily. We'll hit the ground running here on the Real One and Only Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to Sports, that is Sports with an S, another S, Scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program. All righty then, I'm back here live. Okay. Well, I really think about where to start at. A few quick announcements before I get into it. Also want to add that Kevin Carroll, Coach Carroll, will be on tomorrow. I will be getting into some college football with him. I'll ask him about the Vols Georgia game. Very close game there. Looks like Tennessee is closing that talent gap there with Georgia. That's my big take for that game. But I'll talk about the Vols and college football with him. Get his thoughts on the Tennessee Titans since Coach Carroll follows the Titans. We'll go over that tomorrow, 30 minutes into the program. So, and of course, Thursday, got Mad New Yorker coming back. That's a fan favorite, by the way. The 5 biggest games, getting a lot of views there and whatnot. That seems to be, a big favorite. I'm going to cut those every single week as much as I can possibly remember to do so and put those clips out. Also, I almost forgot while I'm doing announcements, like the principal. Some of you older, I guess they still do that with the kids now. The principal will get on the intercom and make the announcements, and before school starts and everything, and saying all this stuff. But I did want to give a shout out to about a lot of my Uber riders. I've got some new cards here. Thanks to my sister Crystal making a recommendation of putting QR codes on business cards, getting them laminated, very nice, putting them in the back of, taping them and pinning them to the back of my seat. Starting to get some new subscribers here on the YouTube channel, over 100 now, 107. But one particularly, Sarah from Wisconsin, very nice. You and your friends, appreciate you. She was on the program. I gave her and her friends a ride here in Nashville to Mount Juliet here, saved them from downtown last Friday night. Want to give her a shout out, Sarah shout out, and of course, just everybody who subscribed to the channel here. Maybe start doing more women's segments. I'm getting a lot of women subscribers. So my women, I love you to death here, not just the women in my family and stuff. A lot of female Uber riders. Appreciate you. Showing love for the Real Sports Scope here, not just my guys here. So, anyways, wanted to get that announcement out of the way here because I had it on my Wednesday notes, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to do a show on Tuesday. I got a few things I want to get to. I'm going to do a Tuesday show. and I'm gonna do it with. I don't know if I'll do a Tuesday show every week. I want to do a Tuesday show every week, but don't know if I'll get to do it every single week due to financial stuff with the car and everything. But this week I am. All right. Where should I start? I guess I'll start with the biggest game of the weekend. Eagles Chiefs. Remember, Chiefs did not have Xavier Worthy. Rashid Rice still suspended. Remember, he's going to be suspended for 6 games. They did host the Eagles, and I said it would be about a touchdown game, maybe a little bit more. It wasn't. 2017 Eagles Chiefs defense played pretty well. 27 yards receiving for A.J. Brown. I was for sure he was going to have a huge game against Bolton there. I guess they probably doubled him up, my guess is. Very good game. Held Barkley under 100 yards. Also, no pass and touchdowns there for Jalen Hurts, but he run one in. They took advantage when they needed to take advantage and make a play. Considering the fact that teams, and this is a little praise for the Eagles, of course, but I was praising the Kansas City defenses now, but a little praise for the Eagles. Everybody, when you come off a season like they came off of and win the Super Bowl, the next year, any coach will tell you it's ever won one, even been to a Super Bowl, but particularly the ones that's won the Super Bowl, you get everybody's A game the next year. The Eagles have been good the last few years. They've been 2 of the last 3 Super Bowls. They're going to get everybody's A game. They humiliated this Chiefs team, and the Chiefs are going to be ready. And considering the fact without Worthy there, you have a rookie left tackle there going against this front here, and it was still a game. It was still a game without those 2 main wide receivers and a tight end that's way past his prime here, in Travis Kelce. But my thing is, I think they found something. People say, well, they can't get the ball downfield. Talking about the Chiefs now. Can't get the ball downfield. I mean, totally missed. I mean, just by an inch. Patrick Mahomes missed Traquan Thornton for a touchdown. And a few series later, came right back to him, hit him for a 49-yard touchdown pass there. And I thought to myself, they had 1 interception, gave up 2 sacks, and I understand they can't run on them. A lot of people with Jalen Carter cannot run on the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles last year were the number 1 team as far as yards allowed, least yards allowed in the NFL. It's hard to run the football. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes was a leading rusher there. But you put all that together, and this is a 3-point competitive game. I think it's not over for the Kansas City Chiefs. You could throw those statistics out the window when you're dealing with the Chiefs, an Andy Reid coach team led by Patrick Mahomes. I think they're going to get it back together. They'll bounce back big this week against the Giants. Of course, the Giants are 0-2 also. It'd be huge for the Giants to knock them at 0-3. They still got to show up. But you look at the fact that the way they played in that game, I think they fixed a lot of their problems. Obviously, they got to get Rashid Rice back. They probably have Xavier Worthy back this week. And you look at the fact that they're 0-2, yeah, it's not a cakewalk by no means going ahead of them. And I'm just not this, hey, I'm a big Chiefs fan. No, I'm just calling balls and strikes. I'm not saying that they're going to – I said they'll win this division somehow. And I thought that they'll come up short of the Super Bowl again. But I don't think they're going to fall off like a lot of people are saying. Yeah, they got the Giants next week. And they've got Jacksonville the week after that. Or Baltimore-Jacksonville, in the next 2 weeks. But they also got the Raiders coming up. They got Detroit at home. They've got Washington at home. And then later on after the bye week, which is in week 10, they'll have Rashid Rice back at that point. Who's to say they can't go on a run? The last 5 weeks of the season, it's Houston at home. They don't look to be that good. Denver, Tennessee. We saw what Tennessee is. They play the Colts. They play at Dallas. So those are big winnable games there for the Kansas City Chiefs. You know, uh, like I said, I was more impressed with them than what others were, considering that they're playing this really good Eagles team, which typically teams that play really well, like the Eagles have, you're going to get your A game. They're still playing at that high level. That momentum is rolling into the next season. I can't tell you how many times during that 10-year drought where the Patriots lost Super Bowls, but during that 10-year drought, but they would come in like a house of fire for the season, coming off of a Super Bowl win the prior year or a Super Bowl lost. You see what I'm saying? And they would get off to Super Bowl win. Excuse me. They get off to a really good start the next year, and everybody thinks this is worth not watching. The Patriots going to beat everybody, and then end up losing to a Giants team or somebody of that nature, and or losing to a Denver team in the playoffs and whatnot. So it's all just keeping it perspective on the season as is. You can't just assume something's going to happen. That's what I like about the NFL. Things can change on a dime. Things come together. Other teams get injured. Your team gets healthy somewhere. Something clicks. You find a player out of nowhere. And sure, before you know it, the whole narrative has changed in 1 week. Okay? So that's my thoughts on that game. Not the end of the world for the Chiefs. And the Eagles are getting about what I thought. My only issue with the Eagles is a lack of production of A.J. Brown. If they start losing some of these games, is he going to start pouting? There's still a slight chance they could trade him and still be fine. They've got DeVonta Smith there. I noticed they didn't have Dallas Goedert this week. I mean, they'll get him back at some point. And they'll use one of these other alternate receivers here. I don't think they're going to move off of him, but you cannot rule out the fact that they very well may do that at the trade deadline, A.J. Brown, even off of a winning team. I said I wouldn't extend him after the initial extension anyways. I said I would probably move off of him after you got your Super Bowl. You got what you needed. He got his money. Everybody's happy. He's going to start wearing thin because this is a power team. This is not a passing team. So that's a story. I know it's just 2 weeks in the season, but it's one to keep an eye on, in my opinion. Okay? All righty then. Move him to New England and play for his old coach, who will keep him tightened up there in Mike Vrabel. Other big story, a lot of people would have led with this story, but I know it's already been out for a day or so. Joe Burrow, go figure, hurt again. Joe Burrow, grade 3 toe ligament, turf toe, got a torn ligament in there, not good, which he's going to be out about 3 months, according to Adam Schefter, and of course, Ian Rappaport, all the big NFL guys. But listen, folks, it's not the end of the season. Jake Browning rallied them back in the middle of that game, and they came back and won the game, and the score was 31-27. And who on this program made that prediction? I don't know. Let's see if we can play it. I meant to download this guy's comment, but he just ran out of time. Listen to me on this program talking about this Jacksonville-Kansas City game, or Jacksonville-Cincinnati game, which store was nailed right on the money. This would be a pretty good wild shootout type of game. 31-27. Oh, wow. Bengals win. It'll be a fun one, though. It was a fun one until we started seeing that Burrow was limping off that Joe Burrow was limping off to the locker room, to the tent, and all that stuff. So, anyways, I'm trying to see if I can find this. Adam Schefter put out something about their pass blocking, and speaking of Adam Schefter, talking about the Bengals pass blocking, which, listen, they are making strides as far as signing people. Remember, they did sign Orlando Brown to a pretty big deal a few years ago. My thing is, why don't you take it a step further and invest into an offensive line coach? Okay, why don't you go that route? But so this is what Adam Schefter put out after this came about. Bengals pass pro ranks since drafting Joe Burrow pass blocking win rate. According to ESPN research, they were 29th his rookie year, 29th in the league. And of course, he got hurt. Second year, they went to the Super Bowl. 30th in the NFL. Still got to the Super Bowl. Year after that, they were 30th again in 2022. And they made some adjustments, put some new 23, 27th, and then 24, 32nd. They were dead last in the league and pass blocking. And, of course, they're 28th this year. You know, I remember watching him in the preseason. He's running for his life here in the Washington game, if you remember that. And I'm reading here, and all these reporters saying, get him out of there. He's going to get killed in there. But anyways, so that's that. As far as that aspect of it is, I've said this before. I'll say it again. Under Mike Brown, this ownership, there's no way I would pull a Carson Wentz and say, trade me or I won't play. I wouldn't do that. That's going to hurt your play. That's going to hurt your timing. Look at the long layoff with Sean. Well, I think that really affected. I know that Watson had his issues with the massage therapists and all the lawsuits and all that, but this guy missed over a year. Totally didn't play at all, and I don't think he really recovered and got his timing back. Not comparing him to Deshaun Watson, but it took Carson Palmer a while. Once he eventually did get traded to the Raiders of all teams, it took him a while, and he was awful with the Raiders. And eventually, he moved off and went on to the Arizona Cardinals and had a decent little run there. Got to an NFC Championship game, if you don't recall, back in the day, and they lost to that. They lost to that Carolina team that went to the Super Bowl back in 2015, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. My thing is just play the rest of this. You signed the contract, got the money, you got your boys' money, the two receivers. Play it out and protect yourself at all times. And go sign somewhere else. You know, and just tell him at the end, I've played my contract out. Let's just move on from this thing, okay? I think he would honor that. And this guy would be 31, 32 years old. There's plenty of players, 32, 33, that have come out playing really well and win the Super Bowls. I want to say Stafford was 34, if I'm not mistaken, and won a Super Bowl with the LA Rams. So they're still playing at a pretty high level. He played well today. That's what he could do. So, anyways, or they can simply move off Zach Taylor, bring in a better running game type of coach, get a Gary Kubiak type of. I'm surprised they did pay Al Golden any money, and they fired Lou Anarumo last year on the defensive side. That was the big story. But those are disturbing numbers there as far as the pass blocking is concerned there for Joe Burrow. Okay. All righty then. Okay, Lions. How about that Lions team bouncing back, man? I did not. Obviously, it was one of the big five games we talked about, myself and the Mad New Yorker. Lions, Bears here. Thought they would bounce back. Got humiliated to this Green Bay Packers team there. That was un-Detroit. Plus, they lost the game before that. Remember, they got beat really bad, upset, bad loss there to the Washington Commanders in the playoffs the game before that. So this was a really big, if you look at it, if you combine those points, they lost by about 30 points if you combine them two games, give or take a few points. And coming home opener, really played well. Did not think they was going to play that well. Them in the stat line there for Jared Goff. Man, I think I screenshotted it. Let me go back here and check it. if I can find it here. Yeah, Jared Goff, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions, 23 of 28. I mean, 5 incompletion. That's the Jared Goff with Ben Johnson, right? That's the same guy we knew last year. I think he went one game almost. I think he had 1 incompletion the whole game last year. I mean, he's almost perfect here. Just a very good game. Now, of course, the Bears had some defense. Jalen Johnson got hurt in that game. Already had secondary issues. Totally got taken advantage of. Just a very good game there for them. Listen, I've been begging for the Lions to get back on track in my mind and my spirit here, so we can hear Dan Campbell. We can hear Dan Campbell's post-game speech, which always fires me up, going back to last year and even the year before that. Let's hear it if I can find Dan Campbell.
There's nothing like getting your first win of the season and playing better than we did last week. A lot freaking better. I bet we go through the tape, we're going to say communication was better, the execution was better, everybody was on point, and we won a lot of one-on-ones. We won a ton of them. That's what the tape's going to say. There's a lot to clean up, and we will clean it up. We believe in us. We're the ones who put in the work. It's like they forgot that we're fighters, all right? That's win number 1. I got 3 game balls. I'm going to start here. We got a birthday, actually, Tuesday. It's her 100th birthday, Mrs. Ford.
I'm so proud of you all, and I'm so thankful for this. I can't tell you how thrilled I am with each game, and I see the results. And I think we've got a great leader.
On defense, all right, 6 total tackles, 1 sack, 2 TFLs, 1 forced fumble. Mimi!
Great dub. Now, bro, though, we can't get too excited. We got Baltimore next week.
On offense, 9 catches, 115 yards, 3 touchdowns. First 3-touchdown game in his career. St. Brown.
Appreciate you guys. Shout out Jared Goff, 5 touchdowns. Let's go.
That's number 1. Break it down.
Bring it down. Hey, way to respond. Proud of every one of you guys. Way to respond. Feed off each other. Great job. 1 on 3, 1, 2, 3.
Wow. Alamon St. Brown. What a fantasy play that would have been. 3 touchdowns. That would have been about 45 points there for Alamon St. Brown. And I think it was, I can't remember that guy's name, Branch there, the safety. Great play, getting the game ball there. He's right. They got to play Baltimore this year or next week. You spread it out. You throw the football like nobody's business on Baltimore. Baltimore humiliated him. I don't know who's going to win. I have to look at the injury report. But Baltimore humiliated this team about 2 years ago, and I'm sure they ain't forgot it. This is going to be a fun game to watch coming up next Sunday. But, a guy like Dan Campbell, and this is another reason why I think they're going to be okay. Campbell is one of those guys. Yeah, there's rah-rah guys everywhere in the NFL and whatnot. A lot of them don't really believe what they're saying. But Campbell, you can tell the players buy in. I buy in. I'm a cynic, a skeptic, and the coach is buying. He's a big guy. He's a guy that I can tell just from 1 week to the next. I can tell he's a guy that is not aggressive with his coaches, but he's assertive, and he's assertive with the players as well. What I mean by that is sometimes you got to have uncomfortable conversations as a head coach. It's the old adage is, the new adage is, you're a CEO, okay? When you're a head coach of a football team, NFL, college, major college, other words, you got to get on to your coaches at some point and got to say, hey, what is the problem here? Why are we getting beat on the left side like nobody's business? And you gotta make tough decisions, and sometimes you gotta let assistants go. Sometimes you gotta correct them in season. Hey, we're getting beat here. What are you telling your group, defensive line coach? What are you telling your group, running back coach, offensive coordinator? Why is Jared Goff slow to his reads here? What is he missing? Are you adding too much? Are you not adding enough? He's a communicator like that. And they know he's coming from a good place the way he acts. I've been watching him because, unfortunately for them and us as fans and whatnot, since they had the first season when they had him on Hard Knocks, right? When they had him on Hard Knocks and he's talking to the guys and they're putting on pads earlier than everybody, as early as the league would let them. And you could see that he's like, I know you guys think this is crazy. We're putting on pads right off the bat. But he read the study about, he said, studies say that, if we start hitting early, we're going to get injured less late. And sure enough, that they had their share of injuries last year, but they got better as the season went along. They built those calluses soon, and players started to buy in bit by bit, and that's a good comeback win there for them, considering the fact they lost both their coordinators here. Now, I don't know how it's going to play out next week. It would really be a big, I guarantee you, if they beat Baltimore next week, which they could. Baltimore, vulnerable defense at times, especially on the back end there. I have to look at their offensive line and see everything is about the injury report and see where it's played at. It may be played back in Detroit, but I have to go back and check. But either way, if they beat Baltimore, yeah, you will hear another Dan Campbell clip. I'll get it off their Detroit Lions TikTok account here. Plus, Baltimore does not lose much to NFC teams. The Giants on an off week, and I want to say the Eagles are the two that I know of that's beat them. Lamar Jackson's unbelievable. But in their defense, he's played them twice in the last 2 years. In the last 3 years, this will be the third time here. They practically play these guys every year, almost every year. They might be able to have something for them. I don't know. But either way, that's for later on this week. It'll probably be in one of the biggest games of the week. I'll put it in my best of 5 there. Okay, great win. Flip side, as far as the Bears are concerned, listen, young team, short week, on the big emotional game there, on the road, and I just said what they're playing against there. With massive injuries on your secondary, including your leading corner there. Was it Jalen Johnson getting injured in that game as well? I just talked about the 3 touchdowns of the field day that Alamon St. Brown had there on the back end. That being said, Ben Johnson, he's going to have to adjust that playbook a little bit with Caleb Williams. It's not a perfect fit. He likes these scripted plays here. He likes to stay in the structure of the system. Williams likes to go off of that. You're starting to see it as the game goes on. He likes to go off script more. And they don't seem to be, but you don't want to kill the guy's confidence too much. Probably just want to run the ball more. You've got some good personnel there, and just have him throw the ball less. Don't show off all those. I know you're going to have some irritated players. You got some very good players there at the skill position. Rome Odunze had a good game. That's something you can hold your hat on if you're a Bears fan. They're starting to develop chemistry with the young wide receiver and the young quarterback. Odunze seems to be a hit there. He had a big game. I'll say he had like 2 touchdowns here, and DJ Moore did not. And Moore ended up hurting me in my fantasy. I didn't play. I only played one team this week in the DraftKings fantasy thing. But that's something to build off of. Williams, it's not looking good right now. But, again, got to get back to just running the ball and have him throw it less and just have him easy throws that he's comfortable with making there. And just become a running team and try to get that defense back healthy again. Again, I had them at 6-11 for a reason. So I thought they would lose this game, but I did actually thought they would win the Minnesota game. Not ready to write them off. They just need to do some adjustments, and we will see as the season goes along. Okay. All righty then. Who else? Let's see. I had all right. Tennessee Titans. It's a good win for the Rams coming across country there, coming off that big physical game against the Houston Texans. Kind of a banged up line there for them, and you still got Stafford in there. He's banged up, but he's getting through it. Played well, I thought, this past week against Tennessee. I thought this would be a much closer game from the Titans' perspective, but obviously that wasn't the case. Even though Tennessee had the lead at halftime there, but I did a little Uber on Sunday morning. What I did was I did a ton of Uber after work on Friday night. Did a lot of rides here. Didn't do any on Saturday. Chilled out, caught my breath, ate some good meals, hung around here at the apartment. And then Sunday, I left about 9 o'clock and drove for about 3.5 hours, 30 minutes or so into the second game, or into the NFL games. And I'm listening. I say all that backstory, because I'm listening to this game on the radio as they kicked off. And I'm listening to the Titans' first possession. And I'm like, okay, you got illegal man downfield on second down. Your first down, and first you got that rookie quarterback. You can't be making any mistakes. You got to limit mistakes when you're, as a team, mistakes, not just his mistakes. We know that. To win games, you really have to limit your mistakes there with the rookie quarterback per se, right? So second down, first down completion, 5-yard quick little hitch or whatever you want to call it to Tyler Lockett, and then second down you got illegal man downfield. All right, well that knocks it up. That's another that's second and 10 now. So you lost that 5 yards. Then at home, on your home opener, on the road, I can understand that. Young team, blah, blah, blah. So then you get a false start. That's 2 penalties in your first drive there. And I'm thinking, I thought about all those penalties they had last week. And I'm thinking, they've got to be one of the worst teams in the league as far as penalties. I know it's early. So I looked them up. They're the worst team in the NFL in penalties. And I want to say, let me look at this screenshot again so I won't mess this up. I want to say it's like 45 yards difference. So Tennessee has gotten 23 penalties for 198 yards. The team in second would be New England at 145. That's half of a football field, folks. That's half of a field there in penalties. They lead, and of course, I sent something on the X out to these reporters. That, a friend of mine, Rich, works for Cumulus Radio 104.5 The Zone, and they've had some job openings for on-the-air personalities and whatnot. And I'm thinking, I wonder how long it would take for me to ruffle feathers if I got that job. Because I'm going to ask these reporters, or as soon as I get Amy Adams or Jabrian Cow, how come you lead the league in penalties, man? What are you doing back there? What are you doing? But these reporters, I sent something out to the team reporters, Jim Wyatt, who technically works for the organization, and Torrin Davenport, who works for ESPN, and they're both like public relations guys for the team. They're not going to ask these tough questions. But I said, I put the screenshot here. Number 1 team in penalties in the league. Won't you ask Brian Callahan that? You're the head coach. Penalties are coaching. I understand sometimes you get penalties with overly aggressive defense. Well, they are an over-aggressive defense at times where they overrun plays. But these false illegal man downfield, you rarely hear that nowadays. That is pure coaching. What's that, an offensive lineman run downfield You hear it, but you rarely hear it, you know? But my thing is, you got that. And then you've got last week, he says he didn't know something about the elbow rule or something like that. You never want to say you don't know about a rule in the NFL, but sometimes you don't as a head coach, but you really should. You should know every rule. Now, a player, you can overlook that. You're a coach, man. You're the coach, you know? And then I'll look at the defensive side of Tennessee. And so they punt because they made those stupid penalties. They punt it back to the Rams. They get them stopped for 3 downs. It's 4 inches. And how do you get – and I went back and, like I said, I was listening to that part on the radio. I went back and watched it. And they give up on 4th and inches an end-around play to Puka Nacua for 45-yard touchdown run. And I'm looking at how many missed tackles is that? You know, and that's my thing with this coordinator. He makes some good plays, but he gives up a lot of big plays. Too many in my, you know, they're like 26th or something against the run last year. He said, we're going to fix that. Well, yeah. Yeah, you're overrunning plays, man. These guys are overrunning plays. There's no excuse for this stuff. You know, this team, and I know it's 2 games into the second season. Hopefully they'll turn this thing around, or he can turn around the coaching and tighten up on those penalties, because you don't have no chance with a rookie quarterback and a young team like this to win games when you're leading the whole league in penalties. When you're leading the league in penalties, you know, you're 3-4. You could definitely go 3-14 again, if that. If you continue to play that kind of sloppy, they got to play the Colts this week. I don't know if they can beat the Colts at 2-0 under Lou Amorano, who's going to give Cam Ward everything he can handle on the defensive side. I don't know when this team's going to win the game. I had them going 6-11, and I felt like that might have been generous. A lot of people in the national media were saying, well, they can go to the playoffs. I don't know, man. They beat me last year. I know that was Will Levis. A lot of that was also just bad coaching, overrunning plays, penalties as well. So my thing is, you know, Amy Adams Strunk, I said this in the preseason. I know it's early, but this is a sports talk show. She needs to have Mike McCarthy's name on speed. They said, well, they had a lot of penalties in Dallas. Yeah, but they won games, you know. They won a lot of games there. A lot of that was because Jerry Jones wants to pay Dak a fortune, and then he wants to pay CeeDee Lamb a fortune, and then he wants to pay Zeke Elliott, going back a few years, a fortune, even before with 2 years left on this contract. So they did all that and realized they couldn't stop the run, so they traded Micah Parsons. And so he walked away from them. But remember, he also got the Dallas Cowboys their first playoff road win in 30 years. So he's not a bad coach, you know. He's got a Super Bowl ring under his belt. But I was saying, when you got this new stadium coming in 27, but the taxpayers here in Nashville paying half that bill for building this thing, all these tourists ask me while I'm riding Uber around that stadium, they say, well, what's wrong with the old stadium? I said, nothing. They just want to put a Super Bowl here and make money at the footing of the taxpayers here, you know, or we're footing part of the bill. I know she's footing part of it. She needs to foot all of it. That's a whole different, you know, that's a whole different argument there. But my point is that if you're going to go big and you're going to build this dome, you might as well go after Mike McCarthy next year to be working with a second-year quarterback and Rex Ryan to run that defense. He lives in Nashville. He'd love to make $1.5 million to come up here and run the defense. I'm just saying, it's food for thought. Hopefully this will be a moot point and Tennessee will go on a run and they'll start to rally around Cam Ward. But I've just got a feeling that it's just not going to work out under Brian Callahan as of today. Okay? And as far as the Rams, listen, they're playing well. That's a good transition, actually. Power 5 time, folks. Power 5 after week 2. We always start with number 5, and then I'll work my way down to number 1. Okay. Rams. Speaking of the devil, considering the fact they've had injuries, considering the fact that Matt Stafford has had this back injury, I'm pretty freaking impressed with them. I like the way they're getting Devontae Adams involved in the offense. He's a good – now, people would disagree with me, but I still think he's the number 2 receiver. Some may say he's number 1. I say he's number 2. He's, 33 years old now. Love the route tree they got for him. Had a good game Sunday against the Tennessee Titans. So did everybody. Offsetting Puka Nacua. We already know about the defense. Jared Verse, potential defensive player of the year candidate coming into the season. The guy's got 71% completion percentage this year. He's played really well against Texans and Tennessee. Also, the defense is 4th in yards allowed, 1st in points. Now, of course, they played the Texans and the Titans, but the Texans won their division last year. Okay, so Texans are no slap. They won their division 2 years in a row. Okay. But they're 1st in points allowed. They're 4th in yards. So the defense is it. We saw what they did to Minnesota last year. We saw how the defense kept them in the game against the eventual Super Bowl champ. We saw how they actually played the Eagles in the playoffs better than anybody. They were 1 play away from beating the Eagles potentially. 2 plays technically. But Puka Nacua catches that ball. They go on and score. It leaves very little time for the Eagles to get back up there and do something. But either way, that has came over into this season. They're 2-0. I don't know how long, but they're number 5. They're number 5 in my Power 5, the Rams. Okay, number 4, the LA Chargers. Listen, won that tough road game in Brazil. I don't recall them being there anytime prior to that. Played really well, minus the fact that that was their first game without Rashawn Slater against that defensive line that's pretty good there in Kansas City. I picked Kansas City in that game in their opener. And, of course, they played well last night against the Raiders, as expected there. But there's no real drop-off. Matter of fact, Justin Herbert, he's a dark horse to win the MVP this year, if you ask me. That's early in the season. I get it. But he's 3rd in passing, 3rd in QBR without the right tackle. It hasn't affected him. Defense 3rd in points per game. Remember, they played Kansas City and they played the Raiders here. All I know, Kansas City is not a juggernaut, but it's still pretty good for 2 games here. And you throw in Herbert's play there, getting involved other players in their offense there. With Quentin Johnson there, I noticed he had a pretty good game last night. And Ladd McConkey is going to get his. He's going to get his. And, of course, the running game they've got. So I got them at number 4. I think the Chargers are sharp right now, playing with a lot of swagger. Jim Harbaugh's gotten his team playing well. The opposite of a Tennessee team. Pretty well coached football team. Love the way Greg Roman, like I said in week 1, caught a magnet. He was ahead of Steve Spagnuolo all game long in week 1. So very impressed. Got the Chargers at number 4. Number 3 in my Power 5 here. Buffalo, of course. Would Buffalo be higher? Yeah, but they gave up that 40 burger to the Baltimore Ravens. Defensively, that was a major letdown. Now it's early. It's September. As I've said before, you're going to see these high-scoring games here. You're going to see these wild, high-scoring games in September. But that being said, they come roaring back in that game. Right now, they're number 1 offense in the NFL. They're 2nd in passing, 2nd running. So They're just not a one-dimensional team. You hear what I said? Second in passing, second in rushing. That's pretty good. This defense will get better. You know, when you added Joey Bosa, their first 4 picks, I want to say, was all defense. That will get better. I don't think it's going to get. I don't think it's going to be maintained like this. They did a good job against the run against the Jets. Practically shut down Breece Hall, kept him under 40 yards there. When I thought he was going to run wild against them, kind of like he did against Pittsburgh, found out Pittsburgh's run defense isn't that good. But anyways, let me go back to part 2 here. The defense will get better as they usually do, and the offense will keep humming again, first and second in the league in yards and rushing. Like I said, they tightened that run defense up this past week, and I think they'll continue to get better. If they don't, they can always make a move at the trade deadline and add some more depth there on their defense to help it out, because this is their year. I had them winning the Super Bowl. So still got them doing that. All right. So they're number 3 in my Power 5. Number 2, this may catch a few people by surprise, but it is what it is. The Eagles. Super Bowl champs, haven't dominated their first 2 games. Remember, 1-score games in both of the teams, one against Dallas and, of course, Kansas City. But that being said, I think they would have played much better against Dallas if Jalen Carter didn't get involved in that Spitgate thing. And listen, I'm still keeping them at 2. I understand that when you win the Super Bowl like they have, the fact that they were in the Super Bowl just a few years ago, like I said earlier, they're going to get everybody's A game, okay? And it's hard to stay up. And Nick Saban talks about this a lot as a college coach. It's hard to keep a team up every single week. Jimmy Johnson talked about this. He said it was harder his second year than it was his first year. He's like, I can tell the team's on the low. He said, I coached twice as hard when we won that second year. They got off to a rough start. Remember, they lost the first 2 games because Emmitt Smith was holding out. They got him back in there. They went on and won the Super Bowl. They beat the Bills again next year, I want to say. And they won back-to-back Super Bowls with a former guest here I've had on the show, Jim Jeffcoat. But it's hard to do. It's hard to keep them up. And plus, it's not the best situation with I mentioned A.J. Brown with his 5 catches, 20-something yards. He may start pouting. Even if they're winning, you got to deal with them diva personalities. So still great offensive line, really good defensive line, really good secondary there. Their young linebacker out of Alabama, playing well. I think they will get better as the season, as long as Jalen Hurts stays healthy. I don't like all that running, but that's just that's who they are. They're a power running team, and they just grind you away. They can throw it when they need to, but this is a running team. They're more successful when Hurts throws under 25 times a game. Okay. Like I said before, only thing that's going to hurt this Eagles team is this Eagles team, okay? It's going to be within. Of course, injuries, but mainly it's going to be within with them. Very well-run organization. But I got them as number 2 this week. This is just 2 weeks into the season. This is just a snapshot. This ain't how I think they're going to play out throughout. They're number 2 right now. I think they'd be favored against practically anybody in the league, but they're not dominant. They're not the most impressive team to start the season. I think the most impressive team to start the season is the Green Bay Packers. The Packers have beaten 2 playoff teams by double digits. Double digits. That was a 3-score game for a long time against Detroit. And we saw Detroit still pretty good. We saw what they did to Chicago. They thumped Chicago and then turned around and beat this Washington team that was in the NFC Championship game. That's two playoff teams. Beat them by double digits as well. Never felt neither team was really in the game. Defense is legit under Michael Parsons. Third in yards allowed, fourth in points allowed, and they're second against stopping the run here. So much for the Kenny Clark loss there on the defensive line, trading him for Michael Parsons, giving up those picks. So I know they've got some injuries at the I think it was named Jaden Reed or whatnot receiver. He's got a broken collarbone. They're going to get Watson back, but they still got Golden, and I love those two tight end combinations. Good running game here. They drafted really well, and they've seemed to simply hit on all those skill players per se. Dobbs is still in there. So I like their balance there. I like the defense. I like their creativity on the offensive side. So let's go back over this again. Number 1, Green Bay in my Power 5. Number 2, the Philadelphia Eagles in my Power 5. The number 3 team would be the Buffalo Bills. The number 4 team would be the LA Chargers, and the Rams would be 5. That's my top 5 right now. Honorable mention, I could have put in the Tampa Bay Bucks, but they lost a defensive tackle. They came out today. He's going to be done with a torn pec. One of their starters there on the defensive side, they still ain't got their left tackle Roarse back, but they played well. 2 big road wins for them. They got honorable mention per se, but we'll see. It's 2 weeks into the season. You'd rather be 2-0 than 0-2. I'll tell you that. Quick take on that Terrence Crawford, Canelo Alvarez fight. Watch the whole thing. My biggest issue with these fights like this, they're in Vegas. They tell you the fight's going to be at 8 o'clock Central or 9 o'clock Eastern. That's just the start because they want to start everything at 7 o'clock on the West Coast. I get that, but you cannot wait till midnight to fight the fight, man. Even on Saturday night, I think the fight should be at 10 p.m. Central, 11 p.m. Eastern. The actual fight. That, not the undercard, not all that build-up junk, the fight. The fight should be. And you got 12 rounds, that's 36 minutes. On a Saturday, you can get away with that. But these fights are too long. As far as the fight itself, I picked Crawford in a 12-round decision. That's what happened. I felt like at 37 years old, man, what stamina did he have? Canelo, bigger guy, longer reach, a little bit younger, slightly taller. He could not get him in a corner. He could not get him on the ropes. Crawford stuck and moved the whole time. But he got some clean ones in as the fight went along. He's in exceptional shape. He's a stand-up guy. He told everybody to get home safe, and they thank God at the very end. And come up, 30 pounds or something? He came up a lot to fight in his weight class. He only took $10 million. Did not even make a lot of money. He wanted it for his legacy. So very impressed there. Very impressed with Terrence Crawford. I kind of like to see him fight Jake Paul, but Paul's a little heavier. He would have to come down and weight. Paul is so cocky, man. I love to see somebody fight that guy. But again, tomorrow, folks, I'll have Kevin Carroll back on the program. Talk some college. I don't haven't talked college yet, right? Since the season came along. But got Coach Carroll there. Going to talk a lot of college game. Going to talk Tennessee. Going to talk the top teams, of course, in the league. Is Ohio State legit? They're the number 1 team now. Is Oregon the number 1 team? Some people think Oregon may be it. Is LSU the number 1? They got another big win over Florida last week. But anyways, we'll be back here tomorrow. I ask him his thoughts on the Titans and my complaints about that coaching staff or lack thereof it. So stand by. We will be in it tomorrow. Have a good night, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place here on The Real Sports Scope.